Good evening. I was just told not to do that. Bring the mic closer to him. I welcome everyone to the September 26th regular board meeting. Thank you for joining us. The meeting will come to order and we will open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Esta junta se llevará a cabo en inglés, pero contamos con servicio de traducción. Si alguien necesita un servicio de traducción, por favor, hágalo saber. Should anyone wish to participate in the citizen comment portion of the meeting, you can still sign up by completing a form at the entrance of the room and handing it over to Kim White. Virtual attendees had an opportunity to sign up for citizen comment before the meeting. Do we have any requests to modify the agenda?
Yes, we do. I would like to add an action item, an item for discussion and possible action, resolution 05-23 regarding board members' eligibility to serve.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to amend the agenda to include the possible action item for resolution number 0523 in discussion about board member residency. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I do not agree that we should be adding the resolution to the agenda. First and foremost, it was only received today, so we've not really had adequate time to look at it, review it. We have a board policy that says things need to be presented at least 3 days ahead of a board meeting, and so that didn't happen. We told the public in press releases recently that while this topic would be discussed at this meeting, that there'd be no action taken. So I think it's a bit disingenuous to now signal that we might be taking action on something that was just presented to us today when we put out there to the public that we weren't going to take any action. And I think it appears to be directed directly at a board member. And I think we have an ethical policy that addresses board member conduct that we just adopted earlier this year. And that'd be policy 1815 that entitles the affected member to a more in private meeting before things escalate to a public forum. So largely for those reasons, I'm opposed to adding the resolution to the agenda.
Okay. Just briefly, just a correction on that comment. The district did not release a press release. Any more discussion?
Then can I clarify where I saw that was in an NCW Live from Diana Hegland? Okay.
Correct. No, it was. It was not a formal press release.
Okay, perfect.
I was included in that communication.
I'm putting forward the resolution for the purposes of discussion, and action can be postponed to the future if that's desired by the majority of the board. We have received quite a number of public, not comments, but emails from the public regarding the topic, and I think it's only fair that a discussion to resolve the issue take place in the public where it's transparent for all to see.
And I would respond very similarly to Laura's. I think a discussion is something we definitely need to have to be responsible. Including the possibility of a resolution does not mean that there will be action on a resolution. And I think if we started discussing that now, that would be matters that I would feel would form part of the discussion with the modified agenda. So that was why I was willing to second having it on the agenda, which does not mean that it would necessarily be acted on.
Correct. Seconding a motion only carries the action forward. Doesn't mean it's an action. I did not receive notification whether Catherine Thomas was attending virtually. Do we know if she's attending? Okay.
Yes, you did receive notification that I'd be attending remotely. That was in a prior email, and here I am attending remotely.
Any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'll just real quickly add that I realize we have it on here for a discussion of the topic, and that is fine. What bothers me a little is the addition of the resolution signaling A, that we might take action, and B, that I don't think we've talked to any type of, at least collectively as a group, any type of legal counsel to know that that's a correct thing to even do. So to be presenting a resolution for discussion that I don't even know is a legal process to use, seems a little too far ahead. I would think that the normal course would be we could discuss it as we've signaled as a discussion item. And then if it progresses to, we want to look at future action, then directing legal or somebody to prepare whatever necessary legal document that is. But again, because this is just sprung on us, I don't even know if what is proposed in the resolution for discussion is actually a legal process.
Okay, just a reminder, we have a motion on the floor that has been seconded.
And in further discussion, I would like to state that prior to this resolution being added into the email that was sent to us mere hours before the school board meeting, none of this has been discussed with me by the board president, the board vice president, or any member of the board, to the point that no one has even asked if these email allegations are the truth. Not
Okay,
one
we
of the
have
board members.
I'm sorry, we have a motion on the floor, whether
And
we're
this is the discussion part of it.
this is the discussion of presenting an action item, amending the agenda. We are not actual to the discussion of possible action.
Correct.
So
And
I want to stay to
discussing-
stick to the agenda. Right now, we have a motion on the floor. To modify modify the agenda. We have a second. So do we have any further discussion in regards to adding the action item, a possible action item?
That is what I was discussing. I don't feel that it's appropriate to add this item to the agenda when we have had I have had no notification. I have had no questions from fellow board members, and I have not been notified by the president or the vice being added to the agenda as we would as you are required to in our policy in civility and board actions, board discussion, the policy that we passed last year.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of modifying the consent agenda to add resolution number 0523, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now next on our agenda, we have the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the minutes from the September 12th regular board meeting, the September 18th workshop, BIP vouchers and payroll, the personnel report, contracts, surplus, field trips, and the July financial report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura.
Second.
And seconded by Julie. Any discussion? No, okay. Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Next on the agenda, we have citizen comment. Kim, do we have citizen comments? Okay, Kim will list those, our people wanting to provide comments. You will be granted 3 minutes. Kim will keep a timer. And once the timer goes off, I will gently try to cut you off. So Kim, we'll let you take over.
Okay, first we have Chad Smith.
Good evening. My name is Chad Smith. I have 2 daughters in the district, a senior and an 8th grader. They are both softball players. Before I start, I'd just like to tell you, thank you. I appreciate your decision to service our community, our kids, in your role as school board members and administrators, especially in this divisive climate. With that decision, however, comes responsibility. First, to kids and to comply with the law. So I want to talk about three things tonight: how we got here, where we're at, and what we need to do starting tonight. How we got here. We got here through 30 years of negligence and incompetence. And why do I say that? Because there can be only two explanations. Either we continued to invest in other sports and ignored these young women without understanding the implications from a Title IX perspective, or we did know it and we did it anyway. There's no other explanation. So now where are we at? October 2021, federal government, the OCR, tells us we're under Title IX investigation. We get counsel. We enter into a voluntary resolution agreement. Good for us. We acknowledge a problem. First step, right? Then what do? We absolutely fumble the ball. Mixed metaphor there, pun. But we fumble the ball in how we respond to our burden in that voluntary resolution agreement. And we had counsel. You know what this cost us? It cost us at least 1 to 2 years. And we can't blame the OCR for what we did. Now, some of these young ladies right here are realizing that their dream of playing on a Panther softball field is dead. That's a huge cost. But there's another cost. There's a real money cost in delaying this in this construction and financing environment. We probably cost ourselves another $1 million. So here's what you need to do right now. Do not piecemeal this. If you piecemeal this, what is the message you are sending to these young women, to all the students in our community? After 30 years of inequity and a federal investigation, you can't go all the way for them. That's the message you'll send if you piecemeal it. Don't do it. Do it right. Rip the Band-Aid. Get it done. Thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Next, we have Cheryl Armstrong.
Thank you, school board, for leading our district. I come to you tonight, a retired Wenatchee School District educator, a happy one too, to speak on behalf of the more than 6,800 students, I looked that up today, who attend Wenatchee School District and who depend upon us taxpayers and you, the school board, administrators, teachers, and classified staff of Wenatchee School District to teach and to educate. My concern is our slide from educational excellence toward ideological teachings disguised as education. I refer specifically to the teaching of gender ideology being taught by our school district. You and I know, and it is confirmed by science and biology, that sex is binary and gender is not something fluid and therefore choosable at will. So I think we lie to kids when we teach or stand by and allow pseudoscience to be taught in the classroom of even our youngest kids. Unbelievably, our school district has mandated gender ideology training for every teacher. Of course, this is state required, so no choice. Question, is every teacher in compliance to gender ideology trainings? Are genderbread posters up on classroom walls? Are staff required to affirm the kindergartners' gender claims or student name changes? I don't know, and I find that it is difficult to find the answer to that. But who's going to stand up for those teachers who don't agree, or for parents who may reject their child being exposed to ideological teachings? 0.001% of the population deals with a genuine mental illness called gender dysphoria. How can we support those students and help the family of that one student when we insist that all students tentatively have an issue with gender, and in fact, cover our bases and offer encouragement for every single student to select his or her personal gender? Did that alarm go up? Okay. We might ask ourselves a question: isn't it a kind thing to encourage and allow students to make their own gender choices? Since we know that the human brain does not mature until age 25 to 30, why would it be considered kind to purposely set these kids on a pathway to explore gender therapy, breast removal for young girls, surgeries for teens to rebuild or remove reproductive organs? And when these youth are old enough to know who they are and what they want, it's too late. The damage has been done. And who do we blame for that? How did we get here? Well, we've replaced with false ideology what we know to be crucial academic structures that students need to prepare for success in life, career, and service to others, and for each student to truly emerge future ready. Previously, these academic structures were the main goal of education.
Thank you, Ms.
Our
Armstrong.
leaders and gatekeepers, can we live with ourselves if we continue to institute gender ideology?
Thank you, Ms.
at college
Armstrong.
education? Thank you.
Okay, next is Dorothy Ferguson.
Hello. I would just like to thank everybody for a great start to the new year. I have a kindergarten grandson and a third grade grandson at John Newberry, and they love their teachers. They love the principal and the assistant principal and the kids and everybody there. We went on a field trip with third grade to Salmon Festival. They love the bus drivers. They all sang Wheels on the Bus as we went there. It was great. I'd never been on a field trip before. My grandson started, because of the pandemic, he started Newberry. His first year in a brick and mortar school was second grade, and now he's in third grade. And his teacher helped him make a great adjustment to second grade because he was like a kindergarten, not knowing what you do down the hall in the lunchroom. And they just really helped him in second grade to learn those kindergarten skills. He's a kid who gets extra help in reading, but he's been recommended for high cap in math. So you're addressing both ends of the spectrum on the kids. I'm impressed that even just being there, 1 year, and this is his second year, that you have done such good assessments to know that. So I really appreciate that. And I know that's happening in all the schools in the Wenatchee district. I also want to thank you for doing your due diligence on making sure that school board policies are followed and state laws are followed. And I know those can be very difficult situations. And I just want to say thank you for all your time, effort, sweat, and tears that you put into running this great school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson.
Okay, next we have Dale Foreman.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to start out by saying thank you for being the Wenatchee Public School Board. I have 3 children who graduated from the Wenatchee School District and went on to grad school, did great. I have 4 grandchildren who are currently in the Wenatchee public school system. I come today to give a plea for you to do what we pledged to do at the start when we pledged allegiance to that flag. One of the things we stand for, I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer here for 49 years. One of the things, and I was the majority leader of the Washington State House of Representatives, so I wrote a lot of the stupid laws that you have to follow. But one of the things we promised to do is pledge allegiance to the flag that stands for something called due process. And Catherine Thomas has not been given due process. What you're trying to do today is to have a discussion, and that's great. But to have a discussion and a decision and a resolution all wrapped up in one is wrong. It violates the Constitution. It's a violation of due process. Now, let me tell you something. I had never heard of Catherine Thomas until 3:30 this afternoon. I'm not involved in school politics. I haven't endorsed any of you or your opponents. This is not political. This is a cry from the heart of a lawyer who cares about the process. We need due process. That means you discuss all these emails, all these allegations. Where does she live? Is she a resident or not? Those are legal questions and factual questions. You can discuss that. But to make a decision tonight, to throw one of your sitting elected members off the board with 2 hours of notice so that she had to call me and beg me to come here, and I'm supposed to be home babysitting my grandkids tonight. I'm here instead for you to say, discuss all you want, get the facts, learn the law from your lawyer, but for pity's sake, don't pass a resolution the same day you write it with no notice, because if you do, and if she wants to hire me, I'll take you to court and I'll beat you, because you can't get away with that in the United States of America. God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Next is Rachel Petro.
Good evening. It's been a while, so just gave you a year break or so, but I heard about this topic on the agenda and I was a little surprised given that Catherine's not running for re-election. And personally, it's no surprise to me that she's been traveling out of state because her significant other lives out of state because that's where they work. It's a pretty normal process. I don't know if she's been derelict of duties, not showing up for meetings, not representing her constituents, but I'm a constituent and she's been representing me. So I think Dale Foreman said it all is in regard to process and due process. I think you just heard from the first speaker tonight about how we need to be careful about process. And then we heard again from Dale. So don't expose the taxpayers to additional legal risk. It's unnecessary. Catherine's on her way out, folks. So I haven't even had a chance to email you, but you can, I'll deliver as usual. But I would just consider I would ask you guys to consider due process. I think Dale said it all, so I won't belabor it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Petro.
I did have one person registered to attend online, but just clarifying, TJ Farrell, just making sure she does not want to make a public comment. Said no, but I'm just making sure. Okay. Well, she'll sign in. Apparently not.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Kim. Next on our agenda, we have some special presentations. So I'll hand the mic over to Dr. Kalahar.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Our first presentation, we have some special guests with us. The new CEO of North Central Washington Tech Alliance, Sue Kane, is here with a special presentation. So thanks for being with us. You can hit the mic. Yeah. Oh, perfect. There you go.
Awesome. Hello, I'm Sue and this is Ian. We actually are here tonight and I have an official message on behalf of the NCW Tech Alliance and Board to recognize one of your school district leaders, Ron Brown. If you are not yet familiar with NCW Tech Alliance, we are a 501c3 nonprofit with a mission to bring people and technology resources together to support entrepreneurs, STEM education, and technology adoption across North Central Washington. Our longest running program at NCW Tech Alliance is the Innovator Awards Luncheon, where we celebrate the drive, passion, and spirit of innovators in our community while inspiring those who are just starting their journey. Since this important celebration began in 2001, 94 innovators have been recognized for their innovation in 3 categories: entrepreneurship, technology, and STEM education. And then over the years, the board of directors has also awarded special leaders in our community with a Lifetime Achievement Award during the innovators. In our 22 years, the Lifetime Achievement Award has only gone to 10 individuals. And today we're proud to announce that Ron Brown of the Wenatchee School District will be the 11th recipient of this award. So I'm going to break from my script for just a minute because on a personal note, Ron Brown has been an incredible resource to me and to our community. And I want to tell you about, he was a founding member of our Apple STEM network 8 years ago. He built our first website. He launched the Tech Ninjas program that helped middle schoolers find their talent for IT. And some of those middle schoolers went on to high school and beyond and have careers in IT. He assisted Wenatchee School District in launching the first ever IT apprenticeship program for students that allows them to become district employees. He's extended the Wenatchee School District in so many ways to serve our community and absolutely changed lives because of the work that he does. It's not often that we think about someone that's a technology director having the community level impact that Ron Brown has had. It is an absolute honor, both personally and professionally, to recognize Ron with the Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeah, I have to go back to my script though, because we also wanted to come today to let you know about the awards ceremony that will take place on November 8th at the Wenatchee Convention Center, and we'll celebrate Ron and other innovators across the region. But for now, we want to congratulate Ron and you on the Wenatchee School Board for your leadership and your partnership with NCW Tech Alliance. It's an absolute honor to be here tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ron, would you like to speak?
I was trying to get away. Thank you, Sue, and I'd be amiss at not thanking Jenny Rojanasatian, who's the current executive director of NCW Tech Alliance, who I had a great pleasure of hiring when I was a board president of the organization. And so I just wanted to thank everybody that supported me along the way. You don't do this on your own, and I had an incredible team from my family to the school board support over the years. And these things only happen with the financial support and the leadership support that we have in the school district. And then to be able to work in the community and being allowed to do that is a great thing. And I don't think it's common among a lot of school districts to allow that time and partnership to happen with our school leaders in an organization like NCW Tech. So thank you. And hopefully we see a lot of people at the Innovator Awards. It's a great event. And so I encourage people to get some tickets and come to that. All right. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you, Sue.
Congrats, Ron. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate that. Next up, we have the YWCA. YWCA is in the house. So Rachel Todd is here to present to us. Rachel and the YWCA are looking at getting some state support to build a new facility. Don't want to steal all the thunder, so I'll let you take over. And we should have a slideshow presentation for you ready to go.
To start with, my name is Rachel Todd. I'm the executive director of YWCA North Central Washington. YWCA has been.
Do I have to keep it pushed? Okay. Make sure to keep it pushed while I. Okay, so I'm Rachel Todd. I'm the executive director of YWCA North Central Washington. YWCA has been in the Wenatchee Valley since 1957. We actually have been in the same facility, on the same property since 1957. Currently, our biggest outreach is with housing insecurities and homeless housing. We have 3 direct housing programs, and we submitted an application to the state of Washington for funding for a complete new YWCA campus on our property. And that's what I'm here to talk to you folks about tonight. So you can go to the next slide. I have the controls. Oh my gosh.
Look at
We
that.
really do need a new facility. I do not know.
Use the bottom one. There you go.
Great. Okay, so the biggest reason why we are asking for a new facility is that we are operating out of nearly 100-year-old buildings. We currently have 3 programs. Our emergency shelter has 10 beds. Our transitional housing program has 10 beds. And our permanent supportive housing program has 7 small studio plus units. These are the pictures of our buildings. The top building is our apartment building. The bottom one is our admin building. Both of them are about 100 years old, and the cost of updates, modernization, or rehab that would it would take to get these buildings up to speed, would get the buildings up to speed. It would not increase our capacity to serve more folks, and it would not address necessarily the long-term facilities needs that we have with these buildings. So that's one of the biggest reasons why we've asked for a new campus instead of modernizing our current campus. Our anticipated outcomes for a new campus is that it would increase our housing capacity, our program capacity by about 33%. We would have a facility that's better suited to serve families, so adults and their dependents. It would be a fully accessible facility. Right now, our facility is very much not ADA accessible. There's so many stairs. It's a trauma-informed design. We know that folks that we're serving are coming from all sorts of backgrounds and all sorts of trauma, and the entire design of the new building has that in mind. It would be more efficient, a better use of our property, and it would improve the overall curb appeal of the neighborhood that we're in. We're working with a couple of consultants. So we're working with the Office of Rural Farm Worker Housing, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. They're a development nonprofit. They come alongside small nonprofits like ours to help figure out how to get a good development plan for capital builds. And then an architect firm out of Spokane called ZBA Architects, they actually have done a couple of projects in the Wenatchee area. So they're familiar with our area. Both of them have like lots of years of experience and have worked on dozens of successful low income affordable housing projects. These are some signs. So like I said, we have submitted an application for a whole new facility. These are our pre-design work designs. So I want to be really clear that this is not set in stone. It may, if we're awarded the money, it may not specifically look like this, but this is what we're hoping for. So this is the corner of First and Chelan Street. This is what the new building would look like from the outside. This is some of the inside. It's a little hard to see. I'm sorry, it's very small, but basically it's going to be one full building. The very first floor of it is going to be the housing and our community space. The other side where our current admin building is now would be a parking lot. You can see this is what our new apartments would look like. We would increase from 7 Studio Plus apartments to 10 one-bedroom apartments and 2 two-bedroom apartments. So we would go from 7 units to 12, and all of the new units would be better suited for individuals, couples, and families. On the other side, there would also be our emergency housing, our emergency shelter program, and our transitional housing program. And we also would include over on the right side, up towards the top, there's something called a flex space. So we do communal living. That is the model for our emergency shelter and our transitional housing program. Not everybody thrives in communal living. And so we know that having a flex space that has some more individuality would be appropriate for some of our clients. This is just a picture. This is another view of what our roof would look like. These are some layouts of the apartments that we would be working with. Like I said, all of these apartments were designed with trauma informed, which means that they are set up not only for safety and security of the resident, but it's also set up for that feeling of safety and security of the resident, making it cozy and making it robust and helpful without making it feel institutional. This is what it would look like from the curb, and that is the end of that. So we are wanting to make sure that the school district knows that we're doing this, give you some ideas of what we've applied for. We're hoping to get the full award. We'll see what happens. We'll know by the end of the year. But my information is here. And so if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns about what a new facility would look like, feel free to reach out to me. And that's what I have for you folks tonight. Thank you again for squeezing me in so last minute. This was really a lifesaver for us, and very, very appreciative of being able to come here.
Excellent. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that.
Before Rachel walks away, do we have any questions for Rachel? Well, from the board, sorry. Great, thank you.
Excellent. Next up, we have Rob Gross, sorry, from Turner Townsend and Hury, and also his sidekick, his partner, John, is with us as well. But Rob, I'm very excited for everyone to meet because you'll get to know Rob a lot through this next process. Over the course of the next year, Rob is our project manager for the softball complex. So we're very excited to have him with us. Rob, thanks for being here.
Oh,
and we have a slide deck for you as well.
We do. Nice. Well, first of all, my name is Rob Gross, and I'm very happy to be here to talk about such a great project. Thanks for choosing us to be able to be your owner's representation during this great project. So just to talk a little bit about us, I come from a long lineage of construction. Started in the field and been involved with K through 12, my passion for the last 25 years. Some of the relevant projects, I just wanted to show everybody that I'm the project manager for the new Wenatchee YMCA. So I'm here, and it's really good to be here and be part of the community. And I've done a lot of programs and districts that have built football stadiums, softball complexes, baseball complexes, soccer fields. So it's a great fit. It was a great timing for us, and we really appreciate the fact that we're able to represent you. I like K through 12 so much. This is my son, who's his first day of every year since they were kids. We got this first day of school. He is a first-year kindergarten teacher. And so we love the passion of K through 12 in our family. And my daughter is in her first day of her senior year at Boise State. So it's been great. Public schools, education has been awesome for my family. And next, and this is John Mender, my assistant project manager, who will be here helping. Been involved in a lot of strategic projects, has experience with civil engineering, which is a lot that we're going to need on this particular project. This is just kind of our organizational chart that you would to expect from our company. I'll be overseeing every day-to-day operations with the help of John, and we have a specific scheduler that will help us schedule the fact that we can get this thing done on time. We have another element that helps with the financial part of it, where we track every dollar and we reconcile that with the district's CFO every month. And so every month we'll be able to have, you'll be able to see every dollar that's spent and every dollar that's been committed, maybe not spent yet. And then we also have our operational leader for the state of Washington, David Bodine, he's always available for a phone call or whatever we need him for. We won't need them, but so kind of go through the next stages of the project description. Obviously, we're going to be decommissioning the fields, constructing a new varsity softball field, and hopefully a new soccer field and football field. We don't know, but we're going to certainly go down that path. And there's many ways to be able to find out if we can and what the budget would be for the soccer field. But the number one goal is the softball complex. So this is kind of the latest thought process or renderings that we've started. It's just kind of a schematic design. It's more of just something to kind of put on paper. But it appears to be something that would be a great facility and great for the community and your district. These are some of the regulation softball field. We, with some infield turf, you can see a press box, scoreboard, bullpen, dugouts. I think we also have batting cage tunnels involved. This is the big picture here, the schedule. So as of last week, a week and a half ago, we put out an RFQ for design. That's an architectural and engineering team. Part of the response I'm getting from all the individuals throughout the state has been very promising. Some of the same design teams that have done the new Spokane Stadium, the Quincy softball and baseball field. I'm doing a new stadium in Yakima for West Valley School District. I mean, there's a lot of momentum with a lot of good designers. That's the ultimate goal here, to get the best you can. So we hope to have that expected award on the 19th of October. We have the selections, the RFQ coming in the next week. So we'll choose and narrow that down to at least, 3 firms, and then we'll process them into an interview process. And we hope to choose them and put a negotiate contract in front of you by the 19th of October. We hope, best case. Some of the things we're going to be doing in November is solidifying the fact that we can get these products. These last 3 years have taught us a lot of things you think you can buy and get on your job project sites take a lot longer. So we'll investigate that and study that and find out what we truly need, and we can order that sooner than later. February, we hope to have the design finished by end of January. And in February, we're going to put it out to bid. Another really good element here is you've got a lot of momentum from your city. A lot of good general contractors throughout the state are know about this coming next year. So I think we'll have some really good competition, which is always good for pricing, and a reputable company that'll get finished on time. Whoops. Uh-oh. Wasn't done yet. And ultimately, the main goal here is August of 2024 to have the ribbon cutting. That's the funnest thing we ever do. Part of the other element here, you can see I kind of skipped through, but in October, we're also going to start the design phase. And some of the support from Dr. Kelleher is he's going to have a committee put together to help with the design, get some input from teachers, from students, from softball players and their parents, or everybody really wants to get involved, and we're going to listen to everybody. I think one of the worst things we do is we don't listen enough. Just take the time and listen. We hope to have it permitted in January and for a groundbreaking ceremony of April 2024. The next steps in the next month for the next 30 days, we're going to engage a geotechnical consultant to do the testing, to make sure we know how we can put a structure on the building and infiltration of the soils, and also get this engage in a consultant that will do the surveying. Very important issues that will help us go through the next steps of SEPA and and probably going to have to do a traffic study. So there's a few little elements in the next couple of months we'll have, but those are the next month. Those are the 2 big things. We have, we always try to kind of prepare a project for alternates. If we want to do the whole field in turf, if we want to do just grass outfield and infield turf. So there's a couple little things here that we can do. So one, that we can know that we're spending the money correctly, and what we're going to have left over to be able to put elsewhere, as is if you have some left over enough to do the football fields and soccer field. Those are some options. Again, talking about the early procurement package, those are also crucial, and we'll continue to push those. Well, that was fast. Did I go too slow? Maybe. You guys have any questions? I think we're set. We're on the right track for success. Thank you so much for having us.
Rob, thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I guess I do have a question. Based on your experience, this project schedule, is that realistic?
Oh, absolutely.
This is less than a year out. I don't want to have false promises, right? Because we do have a group of young women here that are depending on us as a school district to make sure that we are giving them what they deserve, what the district, what the women in our community deserve. So I just want to make sure that, now that it's out there, that this is a feasible timeline.
Oh, certainly. And we've had a lot of experts look at this and engage in conversations and get their opinions. I've done more faster. So I'm not scared about any kind of time frame. Now we're in a sprint. We have a lot to do in the next couple of months. But we're not designing the entire building. So it's a little different. There's certain strategies that we can do. Unfortunately, that we can work through the winter. I mean, dirt's good to be moved during the winter. And there's nothing wrong with constructing anything in the winter. So we'll be good.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't your scope but there was talk about demolishing the building that's in place or working it within the footprint of what's there.
Are we talking about the restroom concession?
Correct.
Initially, right now, we have that as renovating. And then building the new stadium right in front of it with the press box on top and score creepers with a scoreboard and lights. Everything you can imagine for a softball field, this is going to get.
This is a half comment, half question, similar to what President Maria asked you about. Is it feasible? I think it's, I'm really grateful at your project management collaboration through the superintendent and with the district. There'll be the other side of the equation. You're looking at the engineering and design and procurement. Here and there are going to be decisions that have to be taken by your client on the other end. We need to make sure that we have good coordination so that the decisions, if there are choices, are promptly communicated so we can react promptly too.
Certainly, that's part of my job is to inform and recommend to the owner, which is the school district. So it's your choice, and we'll have everything in place for you to make the right choice.
Just my only comment is that this is exciting to finally be underway. It's been a long time coming, and so I'm really happy that this is going to be a reality. Look forward to being there at the ribbon cutting, even though I won't be on the board at that time. It'll be a great day.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you there.
And I just want to express my gratitude for Rob. I think what you're going to be excited about is that Rob's plan is to give lots of updates to the board and the community. We've also talked about building a website. In fact, Diana already has a website built on our page that says the softball facility complex, where he's planning on, putting a lot of design work in there as well. And so the communication piece is everything that we want and more. So I'm really excited about that aspect as well. So it's been great working with you, Rob. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda, we have a discussion item, and this is regarding the board member residency. As part of our board norms and process, board members can request to add agenda items to the agenda. This is an agenda item that was requested to be added for discussion. Superintendent Kelleher notified the board of the addition to the agenda item, I believe on Thursday of last week, or was it Friday? Friday. So here we are. So anybody want to start us off?
So we did receive quite a number of emails over the last week containing certain facts, some of which I was aware of and some of which I was not. I do concur that due process does need to occur, that we're not railroading a decision. And just want to say from the forefront that it's healthy for a board to have differing opinions and people who are not completely uniform. And to say that to Catherine and about Catherine, that I have appreciated, though not always necessarily agreed with her positions. I have always appreciated her enthusiasm for her school visits and her reports back on the staff and the teachers. And she's always been super positive about those things. That said, I do have concerns regarding her continued participation in the board, and this is not personal on my part in any way, but I had talked to Abigail Westbrook at WASDA, who is the Legal and Policy Director there, as well as Danielle Marchant, who is the board's attorney. Sort of took steps, based on their advice, and things that they said that caused me pause were that if we have an ineligible board member participating in our work, it could have some legal on the road. And I just want to make sure that we're having this conversation in a transparent way. We're doing what's right to serve our constituents and the students and staff in our district. One of those concerns has to do with the creation of a quorum. In the event that 2 of the 5 of us were not able to attend a meeting, and action was taken on some item, and if the ineligible board member were part of that decision, that decision could be later called into question. That's a concern. Also, a concern is if there is a 3-2 vote. And this applies not only to the future in the next 3 meetings that we have, but also to meetings that have occurred since her residency may be ineligible. Any of those 3-2 votes could be called into question if she were in the majority that voted in favor or against whatever the action item is. And the third area of concern has to do with confidential information. We as board members occasionally have executive session where confidential information about students or staff or liability issues are discussed. And I have concerned about the right to maintain that confidentiality or the duty to maintain that confidentiality if indeed a board member who is participating in those sessions is in fact ineligible to serve. So I was advised by Abigail that it's advisable for the board to have options going into a meeting. And after talking, and one of the things that she suggested was a resolution. And that's why when speaking to Danielle, she had the same advice that I asked that she would draft this resolution, knowing that we'd come into the boardroom and this conversation, and the conversation would evolve, that I didn't come in with a preconceived idea that, this was going to pass or anything like that. But I wanted it out there as an option for the board to consider and to discuss. And I think I will leave the introduction at that point and allow the rest of the board to participate. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go next. And I'm going to repeat what other board members say, because I think it's important that we all express the whole issue, because it is really important. So I come into this meeting open-minded. To me, there's a big distinction between a board member requesting an item be on the agenda as the resolution and actually acting on that resolution. And so I think that distinction is this is the discussion, which I think would have an impact on the resolution. I'm going to start with the initiation when we received a lot of public comment. I consider this matter to be, first of all, of law, secondly, of policies, and possibly, but not necessarily, a matter of ethics. I decided that it was necessary to consult counsel and get good legal advice. And I had not thought of the things that Laura brought up of invalidating decisions, confidential information. These are serious issues, which I had not thought about before. With respect to policies, we do have I'm on the policy committee, and we were concerned, I was concerned, and there's been staff work on what is an appropriate policy for remote attendance. What are professional courtesy policies and norms for informing the board president and the secretary of when and where and how they will be attending meetings? Those are lesser issues, but that was kind of where I started. With respect to whether somebody is resident, I think the primary person who can express this is the director as an individual. That person knows what's in their mind and what's in their lives. And then for me, initially, the second question was, what is their status with the county elections officer? On the basis of legal advice, I now realize that a couple of things. Residence is deemed to continue until it changes. So Catherine was deemed to be a resident at the beginning of this year. I believe I'm not a lawyer, but so I'm looking into this to get good legal advice and due process. Apparently no single instance will be conclusive for determining whether a residence is. Intent matters, but it's not the only thing to consider. It is of some weight. All of the facts need to be evaluated. So I think that's where we stand. And in terms of the resolution, where we now see a lot more information than when I started this journey, I totally agree with due process. And I think that is really, really important. However, by having a draft resolution to look at, I think it put a lot of transparency and focus on the issues that we have to face. I'm frankly not comfortable with a board member not being present and having a lot of questions about their residency. That doesn't mean to say that I believe that they're not a resident. That has to be determined in a different way. There are two conflicting pieces of information in the resolution. One is that on Friday, the 22nd, Catherine Thomas was reported as inactive on the county voting register. That would be fairly significant. As far as I'm concerned, Catherine, I would have not got a definitive answer from Catherine on what her intent is with respect to her permanent residency. There are a lot of factors out there, but her intent is not known. So those are two factors that are important to me that are yet to be resolved. And in due process, I normally like a two-step process. Quite frankly, it's safer, it's fairer, and it's normally better. So I come into this with an open mind. If something were to be presented in this discussion that made me think differently, I would be open to that. So I'm not indicating a decision right now, I'm indicating issues. So two factors would be, as of today, in the resolution, Catherine has stated that she is once again active on the voters register. But that, as far as I'm concerned, is hearsay. I would feel much more comfortable if the responsible officer were to answer that question. I would also think it might be a good idea for Director Catherine Thomas herself to express to the board what her intentions are in a formal way. So I think that is pretty much where I stand at kind of a discovery mode. And then I will hand it over to other board members to express their opinions. And that way I will get a better feel for the issues at play.
So I have obviously a couple concerns because I didn't necessarily even want the resolution presented on the agenda because it just does feel like an absolute lack of due process. And in my mind, it was a bit of a blindside because as of Friday, when learning that this discussion would be occurring on the agenda, it seemed like everyone, or at least administration, was in a good place, having talked to Catherine, that the auditors were on board, that yes, residency was, despite all these emails and things, residency could be explained satisfactorily. I don't disagree with what the legal status is. You have to be a resident of your district. You have to be eligible to vote. I don't disagree with what the state of the law is. Where I get concerned is that although you two have independently reached out to board legal counsel, we have never collectively as a board had any discussion of what do you do when you suspect residency is an issue? And so it's come at very piecemeal kind of way. One of the questions I have is our board legal counsel the appropriate person to give us advice adverse to potentially another board member? Are we supposed to find somebody else neutral now that we're in that space? So there's a lot of process issues that start coming to mind. Just having briefly read through the resolution, there's a lot of things in there that I couldn't today subscribe to without some type of fact-finding hearing. I mean, she's absolutely entitled to tell us because we're basing all the truth in that resolution on what the emails have said and whatnot. I have not independently researched anything there. And so we obviously need to hear somebody else's side to determine, can this establish legal residency? Just in the very brief time I spent with the resolution, there were typos, miscitations to law. Who knows that there could be more? So it's very rushed to just have it presented to us a few hours before a meeting and saying, without having the benefit of an attorney telling us all, because even though I am an attorney and have kind of practiced in this area and have some experience with it, I'm not the board's attorney. I can't make those representations to the board. It's wonderful to hear the representations that I've made to you, but those haven't been made to me either. So I don't know what this process actually is. It's very different from any process I've ever been involved with. I know that we could declare all we want that somebody we think they're invalid or they're not a member, but if they don't agree to resign, I don't think we have any authority to do anything about it. We'd have to go to court. Do we think this needs to go to court? I mean, somebody needs to explain the ramifications of what we're doing before a resolution is presented to us as this is the option to proceed. To the extent this is personal, I do feel like we have a board policy that allows her to discreetly work on this issue. Like I said, I am mindful of the concerns. If, the legal standard is the legal standard. Somebody could challenge us at any time and say, hey, the facts were that there's residencies not established. This vote was not valid or whatnot. To date, I don't have any real concern because we haven't had any issues with quorums going forward or in the recent past. We haven't had any issues on votes. Everything's been largely majority. So to the extent it might undo something we've already done, I don't have a realistic concern in that regard. There's 3 meetings left in the year. I also don't have a significant concern going forward. I respect the law. I think she took the oath. She knows her place better than I do. So I just have a lot of concern and just from the, basically just the due process side of it. And I think I expressed that when bringing it even onto the agenda, that there's been no explanation of the process, no opportunity for her to share what the status is, what her intent is. And, bottom line is I'm just a little disappointed to actually have to have this before doing that whole process in the public forum, because I don't think this serves our students, our staff or anyone very well to sort of air the dirty laundry and whatnot. I just feel like there's more discreet ways to get answers to questions, to get the advice we need to be able to proceed before taking it to a public forum and potentially an action item that we told the public we would not be taking action on. And I can tell you right now that I have not spent enough time with it to be anywhere near a position to take any kind of action on it. So
yeah, a couple things. One is that we do have a representative from Danielle's office here. As a resource, Crystal is here at the end of the table there, should we need to. And the fact is that the topic was already out in the media. Not only were we receiving emails, but there were publications about it in various media forms. And so the obligation of a board member is not to create a board meeting outside of a board meeting. And if we started a, phone call chain of, what do you think about this? What should we do? What should we do? What should do? Then we've, created a meeting outside of a meeting, which is illegal, according to the Open Public Meetings Act. So that being the case, that was one reason to bring this out into, one is that was already out in the public forum in the media, and 2, that we couldn't have a meeting amongst ourselves without being in violation of the Open Public Meetings Act.
And so I would just counter that by saying, wouldn't the exception be, we could have an executive session to discuss a potential piece of litigation, because we'd be asking our district attorneys for legal advice on a position, because if we could get sued by the public, that would be the proverbial other party in a foreseeable lawsuit. I agree, we can't have serial meetings. And that's why I say we've got the policy to where the board president and the superintendent can discreetly discuss these issues. And if it's not resolved at that level, and to where something of this nature needs to be, I think that would have been appropriate. It could be discussed in an executive session, because we have the risk of a lawsuit potentially from the public if things don't, if the residency is a question. So that's what I mean when I say collectively having some type of discussion of what is the process to deal with this, so that we don't get sued by the public. Because now I feel like there's a legitimate threat that we might get sued if we take improper action by the board member.
And we still could have an executive session. So probably not tonight since it's not on our agenda, but we still could do that.
Just, sorry, one more point. I mean, because it's a regular meeting, we could add it to the agenda, but yeah, because it's a regular meeting.
So my concern with, I agree with Laura. We received many emails with documentation in regards to, what the residency, whether Catherine was still residing in the district that she serves. And in also evidence that the voter registration was inactive. My concern actually dates back for several months. I have, with Catherine's remote attendance, I have on multiple occasions had requested the communication as stated in the board policy that she notified the superintendent, the administrative assistant, as well as the board chair. I was not informed that she would be attending remotely. And so that prompted several pieces of communication with Catherine, with the superintendent as well. And looking back in the last 3 months, starting in June, August, we didn't have meetings in July, August, and September, including this meeting. We have had 9 meetings in person, and I was notified after multiple prompts and emails about remote attendance for 2 meetings, or in-person attendance for 2 meetings, which 1 meeting, sorry. And so, to be serving on a board and how all these concerns being brought up by the public, seeing the inactive status, when Catherine has been attending meetings in person, only 22% of those in the last 3 meetings that we've met is concerning enough for me. I did also ask the board policy committee to look at the policies on attendance, because it is vague. It does say attendance. It doesn't address whether it's virtual attendance or in-person attendance. One of the policies specifically hadn't been revised prior to COVID. So that's interpretation of the person, whether we are it's pre-COVID attendance, post-COVID, because we weren't allowing post-COVID, before COVID, remote virtual attendance. So in multiple attempts, I reached out to Catherine asking for attendance status. And again, I have emails here confirmed to verify that I had minimal communication. I do understand there was communication with the superintendent and the executive assistant in some cases. They redirect Catherine to communicate with the board chair as stated in policy, and that did not happen. So, it's just, and the looking at RCW 29A 08620, which addresses the change of address information for mail ballots, assigning assignment to a voter to inactive status confirmation notice. There's some red flags that I think we need to really look at this RCW and what it meant to have an inactive status, and say, as I'm with Martin, I heard that that's no longer inactive, it's active, but at some point within the last week, that status was inactive. And where does that fall into RCW that I mentioned, along with the 2 other RCWs presented with active and inactive registered voters?
I think an additional aspect for us to consider is a policy revision, going forward, possibly limiting the number of remote meetings that a board member can have, except under the state of emergency declared by the state or the federal government.
Absolutely. And that was my proposal too. And I did notify Catherine over email that I would be presenting the board that I had asked for the board policy to review the policies. Because we need to be able to we need to be able to follow our own policies and have clear definition what attendance means. And so that was my request there. I believe there are 3 policies regarding board member attendance. And whatever direction we choose, whether it's 2 in person, 2 remote a year, I don't know, but there's definitely that we definitely need to revisit that.
That is something that the policy committee intends and intended to get into, along with the professional courtesy of proper notification. I think something I want to say, and this is a bit of a repetition, and also Catherine needs to speak, very definitely. I talked to legal counsel, quite specifically chose not to talk to any of my colleagues. So that's one point, and I think that's how we get there. And then the other thing that is a general aspect, as board members, I believe, are held to a standard by the community that we should be diligent about following the law and our own procedures. So when we have a lot of questions about residency, I think part of it is to actually ask the question and deal with that. And this discussion is serving that process. Where we go from the discussion, I said I began was open-minded. There are a number of different directions that could be taken. But this, I think, to me is important that we seek together to behave responsibly, openly, and adhere to the intent and spirit of the law. And that's all I'm going to say, but I think Catherine needs to speak.
I'm also curious about Crystal's role today and if she has anything that she wants to.
Great, thank you. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But I just did want to talk about, make a couple of clarifying statements about the resolution. So the resolution as it's drafted does have in there what I consider to be a due process. So it does call for a directive that if Ms. Thomas if the board were to adopt this resolution and Ms. Thomas does not, effectively constructively resign her position, then there is a directive to seek a court action, seek a court order for that. So that would be the due process in there. And so I think that is just a clarifying piece for that. And as far as I'm not the attorney that spoke with any of you. You spoke with Daniel Martin, my colleague, but I'm more than happy to clarify any questions that you had.
So I just want to double back on that. So the due process that I'm referring to is in adopting the order. So you're stepping ahead and saying there's due process in the order. Well, that's after we've adopted the order. So
that's this meeting currently, that I think.
Well, but that no one was given notice that, yes, we were going to discuss it, but no one was given notice that we would be asked to, or at least I wasn't until 2 hours before, or a few hours before the meeting, told here's a resolution to make a judgment. We haven't set Catherine up to give any kind of, that this proceeding would be occurring. Like I said, I can't adopt that order until I've actually looked at the laws and the impacts and the things there. So that's what I mean with due process. I need due process to get to the order. Once we get that order, which is the resolution, then I see there's a process in there. If she does not, if it was approved, voluntarily resign and do all of that, I see that's in there. That's not the due process. That's enforcement. That's not the due process. I was talking about due process in terms of we're thinking about taking away your status as a board member. Here's your here's notice of our hearing on that. here's your opportunity to present yourself at the hearing. Following the hearing, we're going to make a decision on this. That's the due process I was anticipating. This meeting on 2 hours notice to present a resolution is not the due process I'm accustomed to. I'm used to notice, opportunity to proceed, opportunity to speak, present your evidence, and then a decision will be made. And then there's enforcement of that decision if it's made.
I don't think the court order is necessarily the enforcement. The court order would be she continues to operate as a board member. So the court enforcement would, it's not enforcement, it's a court order saying you are not a board member.
Right, but that would be based on the resolution that we adopt. So then it's enforcement, because again, the way I understand election laws to work is that we can adopt this resolution and say, you're no longer a board member, you're invalid, whatever. And she can say, that's great. You can tell me to resign all I want. I'm not going to resign. So then you go to court to get the order. That's what I mean, enforcement. That's enforcement of the resolution that we would be adopting, because that it's really called a quarento process at that point, because that's the only way to actually remove an elected, a seated elected official. And this is kind of the conversation that would have been nice procedurally to have our board legal counsel give us before being presented with a resolution, so that we understood all the steps, how a hearing or due process might work, what the steps are. You know, we make this declaration, then what? Having that information provided to us, like I said, potentially through an executive session.
Yeah, I think
So
this
that-
conversation is probably better suited for an executive session,
Right.
to not be having this in an open public meeting.
Right, so because I'm just speaking to my own experience, because I happen to work in this area a little bit, but not because I'm legally representing or saying this on behalf of the board, so that's my concern.
I think the process that we were anticipating using might be a little bit different, but I don't necessarily want to speak to that in the open public meeting. I think, like I said, it would be better suited for an executive session.
So just to be clear, the email with the resolution was sent to the board at 12:45 by Superintendent Kelleher, and the email specifically says he would follow up with a phone to each individual. So just for fairness of the board secretary, it wasn't a couple of hours before the meeting. Catherine, we have.
My phone call was at 3 o'clock, so it was a couple of hours before the board meeting. Thank you. The legal requirements for retaining a board member's seat are residing within the Wenatchee School District or Wenatchee and maintaining registration as a Chelan County voter. Both of those facts remain true in my case and are available to obtain from the Chelan County Elections Office. I voted in the primary election that just happened, and according to the Elections Office, you can be mailed something that's not returned, and they can change your status to an inactive. But the primary just happened. I voted in it, and my status is active as a Chelan County registered voter. My residence remains number 2 Canyon Road in Wenatchee, and both of those facts are notable on my legal driver's license. I find it stunning that no one bothered in this entire process to ask either of those questions of me before we began this process. I've never missed a board meeting, board workshop. Recently, I attended the staff opening day, a board meeting and a board workshop during the week of the 21st of August. I spent this last weekend in the WASDA General Assembly, 9 hours on Friday and 7 hours on Saturday, registering over 113 votes for the Wenatchee School Board and that General Assembly. I've devoted myself, my time, my energy to this district, probably frankly to a fault. And for the last year, my husband has had to travel back and forth from El Paso to Wenatchee for work. After more than a year, we decided to purchase a property here because we did not want him to live in a hotel any longer. There are no rules against purchasing property outside of the district as a board member, nor is there a policy against attending any or every meeting remotely. You speak about sending a request to the policy committee for changing the attendance policy. Well, I'm on the policy committee. I heard you say that you're sending that to as a request. The policy committee has not met since you have put forward that request. We meet in October, as a matter of fact, and had happily planned to discuss that and revise the policy if necessary. But at present, there are no rules against attending every meeting remotely. I think it speaks volumes of my fellow school board members attempting to remove me from my elected seat in a short matter of hours. The facts of the situation speaks volumes regarding the school board's lawyer, who is willing to write an inaccurate and false resolution regarding a board member who she is charged to represent. I am stunned, surprised by the actions of Ms. Iniguez, Mr. Barron, Ms. Jakes, but I suppose I shouldn't be. I have 3 board meetings left to attend after tonight, and then my term will be over. So this attempt to remove me and your reasons for it can only be explained by you.
Just for clarification, I don't know who else mentioned it, but I have not had any discussion with any of my fellow board members. Again, this was brought up by this conversation, this agenda item was brought up by multiple emails received by the board late last week. All my communication, I have not been in communication with legal counsel, and all my communication has been with Superintendent Kelleher on Friday and Thursday.
I did not say that. I did not say that any of you had been in communication with one another. I pointed out that after receiving emails from the community members, no one, not one board member, bothered to attempt to reach me and ask if any of these allegations were true. Not one of you. I think that would have been a good place to start. Instead, you've taken this public time to blindside me in an attempt to remove me from my seat. I find it stunning.
In my view, the discussion today and the possible resolution is a discussion to clarify the issue, not necessarily to remove a board member from their seat, although if residency is not established, then that certainly could be the result. I feel like in response to the request that, or the accusation that no board member reached out to her, I personally did have a conversation with you on or about April 20th about your proposed move to El Paso. And I don't feel anything in the resolution, the 5 facts are necessary to be validated by a conversation directly with you, Catherine, because those were all validated by either documents regarding the deed or your status or conversation that I personally had with you. So I don't know what it would have accomplished to phone you and discuss it.
My deed is not any documentation of changing residency. Purchasing another property outside of the district is not documentation of changing residency. And I never informed you that I was moving. I had informed you that Edmund had been working for the last year back and forth in El Paso and that we were purchasing property. But a deed is not documentation of a changed residency.
I really don't have anything to add, except that there's a very good reason not to talk directly to Catherine right now, which is the same reason that we did not talk to each other. There are issues to be clarified. I think the discussion serves that purpose. It is not a happy occasion to have such a discussion, but we have had it. I don't have anything more to add.
For me, I guess it's just the piece of communication. I have made several attempts to reach out to Catherine via text, via email, redirecting via the superintendent as well as the executive assistant at no avail. On my correspondence, I received one response, and it was in regards to the attendance to being remote on the 8th and in person on the 22nd and 24th. Everything else outside of that, I have not been able to communicate with Catherine. I have communicated, I have not received responses.
The last email I received from you, Maria, was on the 8th, and I responded with my attendance for that month. I've never received another email from you regarding that. And it was very convenient that out of the blue, you were unable to respond to any text messages that I had previously sent to you regarding attendance and remote attendance multiple times after having been able to communicate via text many times prior to that. So I'm not sure what that was about, but it was not from lack of attempt on my end.
There was communication between you and Kim White, and she requested that you reply all, and there was no reply all in that communication, and that was in September. Actually, it was right after the work session we had with Michelle Price on board on how to work as a board. Do we have any further discussion?
So I guess my question is, where do we go from here, if anywhere? You know, do we leave this as it is? Do we declare an executive session as necessary to discuss and bring in legal counsel? Do we do that tonight? Do we do that another night if we're going to do it? What is it that we are going to do? Are we going to accept Catherine's assertion that she remains a eligible board member?
My thought would be that we table this discussion and potentially invoke policy 1815, where the superintendent and the chair of the board can have a conversation with Catherine to vet it further, to find out if it is something that we need to escalate to further potential legal action, and then have an executive session to talk about the process and procedure for potential removal. I think what she's told us here passes at least a surface test for maintaining her status as a registered voter and as a resident of this district. I have no facts to challenge it. So if further conversation reveals that there's more to it in the 3 meetings that we have left, then escalate accordingly. So I move to table it.
Just for clarification, okay, so we're still on the discussion piece.
Mhm.
Okay, so do we have any further discussion in regards to the residency? I believe what you're asking to table is the action item.
Yeah, I guess to
Okay, so we're not quite there
yeah.
yet. But we're still on the board discussion portion of the agenda.
I guess that's my summary of where it heads after the discussion closes.
Personally, I think the resolution does bring up 5 very valid points to be considered in regards to the evidence of Catherine's current residence. I would not be opposed to either an executive session or, as Julie suggested, having this as a conversation with Superintendent Catherine and the board chair.
Interpreting that as discussion over, and I would agree with tabling the resolution and not taking any action on that.
Okay, so hang on, we're
No, but
we're not quite there.
We're conflating 2 things, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think Laura proposed a question that how do we move forward? Are we ready to move on? Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add that either direction, whether we take an executive session as a board or we have the board chair, myself and Catherine work together, we would have to do that next session. We would have to do that at the next meeting. Just FYI.
And I think that an executive session will be more fruitful if we go through superintendent, president conversation with board member Catherine, and follow 1815 as the ethics policy, but it's uncovering issues. That would make an executive session with legal counsel far more effective, I think.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
I think to have an executive session without doing further exploration and investigation is not the most effective way to go. I think it's better to have a process of discovery. If I use, that may not be the right legal word, but using that procedure and then calling an executive session with better information.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, if we have no further discussion, let's move on to the next item, which is action item. We have resolution number 0523, which is a resolution regarding board member residency. And at this time, I would entertain a motion. I've heard a couple people.
Yeah, I move to table the resolution to allow further review under further discussion with the director under policy 1815.
I second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion to table action item, resolution number 0523. It has been seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, next on our agenda, we have our superintendent report.
Excellent. Just a couple of items here, some informational items. Cascade Subaru through Subaru Adopt a Classroom program donated school supplies to John Newberry last week. Representatives from Cascade delivered the supplies to classrooms full of thankful students and staff. I was not able to actually see it, but I heard it was momentous, so that sounds great. Also, our fall musical announcement is coming out. So congratulations to the cast of Wenatchee High School's fall musical Anything Goes. The cast list was announced last week and tickets go on sale for the show in October. So I'm looking forward to that and hopefully I'll see some of you there. I'll also just let you know that the local community agency cafe hosted a community-wide gang intervention task force meeting last week. I was fortunate enough to attend. This was at the Wenatchee Valley College campus. It was a great meeting. It was very informative. We heard from two very impassioned life stories from folks that had backgrounds in gangs and also lived experiences that had them on the streets at young ages. Who now provide mentorship and guidance to youth in our community. So it was a story of success and it was really, really powerful. We also got to share from each of our respected areas of influence. There was law enforcement, there were local government agencies, there were lots of executive directors from agencies across the valley. So we all shared how we are impacting youth and creating positive outlets. And then obviously, the catalyst for this is there's a lot of work to do in our community. And so kudos to Cafe for bringing the group and the conversation to the table. Appreciate that. And that's it for the superintendent report.
All right, now moving on to our board report. No, Catherine?
Yes. As I stated earlier, I spent the weekend enjoying WASDA's General Assembly. We spent 9 hours working on resolutions and proposals on Friday. There were a record number of attendees from boards across Washington State. Unlike they've seen in many, many years. At one point, we had 154 delegates voting on resolutions and proposals, and it at times was very exciting. One of the best results of this General Assembly for this year was the 3 hours we spent on the weighted vote. As far back as 1986 is the time frame that anybody could locate, having used the weighted vote as the way that school board members voted on issues that became the platform for WASDA and the policies that it adopts. And for those that don't understand the weighted vote, for example, the way that it was done was that smaller school districts were allotted a number of votes according to their student population, as well as larger school districts. And for example, in that Seattle school district was allotted 19 votes for every vote that they gave in General Assembly for WASDA. And Wenatchee was allotted 3 votes for every vote that we gave in the past in WASDA's General Assembly. For 3 hours, we fought back and forth and debated and amended and called the question and worked to try to change this weighted vote. And we were successful. The push was for one board, one vote. And I'm very excited to say that was passed and is now the way that we vote on policies for WASDA's platform. I took notes. We voted on 49 different amendments, policies, proposals on everything from school safety and achievement and opportunity gaps, employee performance, collective bargaining, 49 of these. And just the first one took 3 hours. So it was quite a process and quite a learning experience. But the end result and the result for resolution or proposal for number 2 through 49 were that each board, there was one board and one vote for each board. And I can say that I'm really excited and proud of that because it more accurately helps to define the platform for WASDA and the policies that move forward for the school boards across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I also don't have anything else to add. Just a reminder, our next regular board meeting is October 10th, and we do have a board workshop on the 16th. If there's no further communication, this meeting is adjourned.